Hi guys. Okay, so we're gonna go over some UVing techniques, and I got this little monkey guy that I'm gonna use to demonstrate them. So you click, we can see it's got some dense polygons on it, so we can do this pretty easily and quickly. He's missing an eye, but I'm just gonna actually omit the eye here, get rid of it. So we'll just do his body. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up my UV editor right up here. Okay, and you see when it opens up, it looks like a mess. Alright, so we need to turn on a couple options in here really quick, just make our lives easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on this display texture edges, and then I'm going to toggle on shaded UV display. And get this kind of sherbirdy blue, purple, and red color going on here. Okay. So I'm just going to set that over here for now. We'll have at this. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the face component mode, and I'm just going to select everything. And I'm going to come over to my UV editor over here. I'm just going to hold down Shift, right mouse button, and I'm going to go to planar map. What this is going to do, it's going to do mapping in our UV editor. And you can see this little plane right here. This is how it was mapped, and we can see right here. The goal of what we want to do with this guy is to make him all blue, and we want to stretch him out so he's not actually stretching, or his textures on him aren't going to be compressed too much. Okay, so this is how we're going to start. Next time we do, I'm going to come into my 3D view. I'm going to go into edge mode. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and I'm going to select these edges right here around his leg. Okay, and then I'm going to select the inside of his leg too. And you just hold down Shift to pick through and select, and then if you hold down Shift and double click, it'll go down that line right there. So select that edge loop. Okay, and then I'm going to come over into my UV editor, and two different ways I can do this. I can either go up to Polygon, and I can go down to Cut UV Edges, or if I want to save some time, I can hold down Shift, right click, and cut UV edges. And watch what happens to the area right here. So I'll do cut UV edges. And you see how it gets thicker right here? It also got thicker in my 3D view. That's going to tell me where my border edges are for my UV shells. And I'll get into what those are here in a moment. But let's continue cutting him right now. So I'm going to cut right here. And I'm going to cut up the side of the body all the way to the armpit. Now, for this character, it's pretty cut and dry, but when you're doing your own characters or your models, you want to be pretty smart about where you put your seams, which is these border edges that I'm putting in, because the seams are going to be the weakest part of your texture, usually. So you want those to be able to be as hidden as much as you can. Also, while you're doing this, kind of think of this conceptually as we're skinning a bear. So we're going to be, cutting his skin off, as brutal as that sounds, and then we're going to be laying him out flat. Okay. So for the head, usually you want to take this up until about where the hairline would be. So I'm just going to say it's going to be about right there. Cut UVs there. Cool. And then he's got these eye sockets, and I need those sockets to be kind of out of the main shell of the head. So I'm going to cut that off. Cut that off. Oops, I got to select the entire thing. And again, double clicking gets the entire edge ring or edge loop. Okay. And I'll probably have to do something with the ears, but let's see what happens now. Alright, so I got these seams in, right? Actually, you know what? Let me put one up on the shoulder, just for fun. So I'll do it from that neckline down there, and same thing here. Oops. And I'll cut those. Okay. So this is what we need to do now with this guy. So I'm going to come back into my UV editor here, and I'll start with the leg. So I'm going to right click and go to UV. That's the component mode I want to be in. Okay, and I'm just going to select one of the points in space. After you select that point in space, what we need to do is get to the shell. And two different ways you can do that again. I'll show you how you can do that. One, we can come over to select shell, or we can hold down Control, right click, to shell. And that selects the shell. And in the UV editor, we can move this around and everything like that. So what we need to do after this is we need to unfold it and smooth it out. So to do that, you hold down Shift, right click, unfold. And I'm starting to flatten it out. And then I'm going to Shift, right click, smooth UV. And you get this little guy that pops up. If you hold, click and drag on this yellow crosshair here, you can move it around wherever you want to. But we have this relax and this unfold. And the way you activate these is you click and drag. Now usually you only use the unfold. Every once in a while the unfold will get a little weird, so you have to kind of relax it down and then you unfold again. So sometimes it's a back and forth game with this. So you keep clicking and dragging this until you're not getting any movement out of your shell. And after that's done, you just move on with your life. So I'll go back to my shell, Control click, and you see how it immediately went to my unfold tool, because it's, or my smooth tool. It's because it's still activated. So I can sit here and do this, or I can hold down Shift, right click, unfold, and it'll do it really quick for me, and then I can start doing the smoothing manually. Okay, and we're not going to be worried about the size of these guys right now. We'll address that a little bit later. So again, shell, Shift, right click, unfold, and then we'll use the smooth unfold. Okay. And this isn't working. We can see that we want to get this kind of bluish purple color, and we're getting this weird overlap. Okay, and the reason for that is because we need to be able to cut a seam down this so it has room to flare out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo those. We'll go to Edge, and then I'll just double click down this row right here. Okay, and then I'll cut this UV, and I might need to remove his thumb too, but we're just going to see where this takes us. Cut UVs. Okay, we'll go back to the shell, we'll unfold it, and we'll smooth it out. Okay, and that's coming out okay. For this character, I think this is going to be fine. Usually when you're doing a full-fledged character, you'd want to remove the fingers off the hand and remove the hand off the arm. But for this guy, this is going to be okay. Awesome. Okay, and then we'll do the torso. Unfold. Boom. Okay. And you see how they're separated? These are two different shells. I got the front of the body and the back of the body. So one of these is the back, the other is the front. And the reason they unfolded at the same time is because I select both the shells. So let me just smooth out this guy. And then let's smooth out this guy as well. There we go. So pretty good. Alright, so now I'm just going to select one vertex on the head to shell, unfold, smooth it out. Okay. Alright, so we're getting some weirdness with the head here. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to have to recast this a different way. Alright, so this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to right click and go into my face component, and I'm going to hit Q to get my selection and disable my smooth tool. And I'm just going to select all the polygons in this face here, or right here in this cluster. And then I'm going to hit this green box right here. This is your isolate selection tool. And so now I'm just looking at this shell right here. So I'm just going to select all this. I'm going to planar map it again. But then I'm going to go into my edge mode. I'm going to select all the way around the head, and I'm going to shift double click there so it goes all the way around. So I don't want to cut this yet because you can see right here that this edge down the center of the body is selected too, and there's some more in other places. So what we need to do is deselect that. So we'll hold down Control, click and drag our UV editor, and now you can see those are deselected. So now I'll cut my UVs. I'll go back into my shell for each side, and I'll unfold, and I'll smooth it out. Alright. Now I'll do the same thing on this side. Smooth it out. You might be saying to yourself, well, that's kind of stupid because now you have this giant seam going down the center of his face. Well, what I can do is come back in there. Okay, so select those edges again, and I'll deselect some of those guys right there. Okay, and then I'll make sure I deselect my shells, my other shells over here. Got to make sure I'm an edge component. Okay, and then I'll just hit move and sew again. Oops. Let me undo that because I accidentally had that guy selected. Let's try that again. Move and sew. So now I can come back in here and I'll select the shell, do smooth, and I'll start unfolding that up. I might need to relax it a little bit. There we go. There we go. So now everything's coming out pretty good. Don't have any weird overlapping. We're good. Cool. So now I can come over here and I can turn this isolate selection off. Everything's back. Alright. So with these guys, I know I'm going to have to put a seam in them too, so I can flatten them out. So again, I will go into my select mode, go into my face component, select that guy, so I can just have that. And then I will just select those edges, cut the UVs, face component again here, isolate selection, edge. Actually, let's do this one so it goes all the way to the back. Cut UVs. So now if I go into UVs, I unfold it, I smooth it, and if I make it so you can actually see it, there you go. So I'll do the same thing here. Cool. Alright. So I'm going to select the faces on this guy, and I'll just do isolate selection again. There we go. And select those edges right there. In case you didn't know, I just click here, hold down shift, and I'll double click this edge right here, and I'll just select between those edges. Cut the UVs, UV, shell, unfold, smooth. Okay, let me give this a little bit of relax. So one of the things we need to do now that we got this all tied away, maybe this is unfolding correctly. There we go. Alright, so one of the things we need to do now is get all these in our 0 to 1 space. Our 0 to 1 space is this gray box here. Anything that we want to have a texture has to fall within this gray square. Okay? Easiest way to do this, turn off my isolate selection. So I'll come in. All I have to do is I just have to select one of these UVs. Hold down shift, right click, and do layout UVs. I'll go to the option box there. And let's see what this is set to by default. So you want to do single or multiple objects, no overlapping. For the prescale, you want it to set to object because we just want the scale to be proportionate to our object here. Into region, we want it to scale uniformly, obviously. Rotation, we can set how many degrees the rotations for each shell are set to. I usually set this to free. And depending on what map size you want to use, they have 512, 1024, 24:8. You do customs, everything like that. I usually set mine to 1024, and then I'll hit apply. And there it is. All of our UVs laid out into the 0 to 1 area proportionally to each other. And that's it. That's UVing in a nutshell. Now this guy is set to be textured. Paint him, do whatever you want with him, but he's good to go now. Okay, and that's it for UVing.